I'm honored to have you here, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us today as we dive into history of the Iban people. The oral history of the Iban has traditionally been committed to memory in the oral forms of literature, that is inchantations, timang or pengap, and genealogies, tusut, and some of these are recorded in a system of writing on boards, papan, turai, as mnemonics by the initiated shamans, or lemambang. This includes elaborate genealogical records, which usually go back about 15 generations, although some purport to go back up to 25. These genealogies, tusuts, are essentially records of who married who and whom begat whom. Names of individuals with great achievements in life are accompanied by a short description, a praise name, ensumbar, and the respective narratives of their accomplishments. So, this is how the Iban records their history in the oral form. Some of the songs of the Iban people's oral history, such as the ritual pengap chant, sung during festivals, are mythological or historical accounts composing of key events, major milestones, or famous names. Let's transition to pre-colonization and uncover its significance. According to oral histories, the Iban arrived in Western Sarawak from Indonesia about 1675. There are three groups of Iban, that is the original Biji group, who was the first Ibans in Borneo, the people of Panga and Gelong who migrated from Java, and the Raja Dorong group originating from Sumatra, whom becomes the people of Tanzang Kinilong under Sengalong Borong. Prior to these secondary migrations, there were two more groups arriving at Borneo during the first migrations to the Borneo Island, that is the Spunkuk group at Tanjong Datu Melano Cape and the group at the Marudu Hill near Brunei. These two groups arrived at about the same time with the arrival of the Biji group at Ketapang. After initial phase of colonizing and settling the river valleys, displacing or absorbing the local populations of Bukitans and Seras, there began a period of total war, both intertribal and intertribal in nature. Local leaders were forced to resist the tax collectors of the Malay Sultans Brunei. At the same time, the Iban started to be culturally influenced by the Malay, and Iban leaders began to be known by Malay titles such as Orang Koya and Panglima. Several of the Malays active on the river estuaries, such as Indra Leela, Sharif Japa and Sharif Sahab, claimed to be descendants of the Prophet. Sharif Omid was killed by the Iban. The Buja and Ilanan arrived from the Philippines in galleys plundered in Borneo, and were fought by the Iban. Oral tradition recounts such a fight by Umgang Lebamino from Entinik near modern Betong. According to tradition, Umgang or Sumgang Lebamino encountered Chinese traders who came in ships to the Saribas in order to sell cooking pots, brass pots, pottery bowls, shell omelets, and kauri shells for payday. During that time, the Ibans were also engaged in conflict with the Orang Ulu of northern Sarawak, the Baidayu of southern Sarawak, the Kantu, and other Indonesian ethnic tribes from eastern Sarawak. The Ibans successfully controlled the western coastline of Sarawak. The start of enmity between Spuya, Bala and Undip Ibans against Saribas and Skrang Ibans can be traced back to the incitement by the Malays who collected taxes on behalf of the Brunei Sultanate. The Malay leader Indra Leela, brother of Leela Wongsa of Lingga and Leela Pelawan, incited the Saribas and Skrang Ibans to war against the Spuyadaics in order to control them. Undoubtedly, the Malays did encourage Iban warfare, among Ibans themselves intra-tribal war, and against Malay-ruled peoples who evaded contribution into tribal war. The Saribas were led by Orang Koya Pemancha Dana Bayong of Paid, in alliance with Ling Jamolilbu, who was the son of Ayuk Bedilang Bizi of Paku, Banya Ape Baker of Entinik, and Anul Bulin of Alulea. The Skram were led by Liba Rentup, Orang Koya Gusing, and Orang Koya Rabong. Rendup was later conferred the title of Raja Ula Priva King by his followers while fighting Raja Brook at Mount Sodok, and was famous for his battle cry of Agiidupagingelaban, meaning Stillalalive, Stillfightng. The Spuyadaics were led by their chief Jelambong and later his son Temingong Juga of Lundu. The outbreak of intra-tribal warfare coincided roughly with the beginnings of friction with Brunei and contacts with the Ilanans and other sea raiders. However, even prior to this, There had been fighting on several occasions, one of which is the story of Biti Lemambang of Skrang and his quarrel with the spear warrior named Chadik, who had unsuccessfully courted Riti, who became Biti's seventh wife. Two more occasions that led to the intra-tribal wars involved men from the Ceribus who had become involved in quarrels in their own home rivers fled to the spear settlements. They subsequently involved the spear people in the dispute with the Ceribus Ibans. The first occasion was between two friends by the name of Brayan versus Janang over a lady known as Bremas in the Samu during the chieftain of Sain, the son of Chua. Brayan slashed one of Janang's ears, who then fled to Spear and returned with some Spear people to attack Brayan's house. Another incident of the Ceribus Spear hostility took place as a result of a quarrel over a tapang tree, which was a source of honey at a small banquet stream that lies between the Paku and Rimbas rivers in Ceribus. There were two longhouses here, one under the leadership of Anil and Soma and the other under Sinabong, who claimed ownership of the same tapang tree. Both sides agreed to settle the dispute over a diving Kelam eye contest, which Soma and Anil claimed that Senabong had lost, but he disagreed. Senabong people then migrated to Taong Semarang, from which they first sent a war party back to their old home to fight against Soma and Anil. After they had migrated to Spear, Senabong's men again raided Bangkit, but this time with the assistance of the Spear people. By now, Soma and Anil were so worried by these attacks that they humbly invited Jiriji Imarang of Paku to come and live with them in Bangkit. After many more adventures, Jiriji finally defeated Senabong and took his head. Further clash between the Spear and the people of Ceribus took place in the time of Luta, who was the son of Angang Bamenu of Entanik. According to Ceribus oral history, the Spear Dayaks themselves murdered Luta's brother named Gadan. It should be remembered that more Spear Dayaks lived at other areas in Sarawak, including Lundu and Samarahan. In retaliation for this incident, Luta led the Ceribus people to raid Spear, where he killed many of the enemies. After the missing of Luta and his brothers Warwick and Ketit in search of the valuable Tuchong shell armlet off Cape Datu, the leadership in the Ceribus was passed from his family at Entanik to that of Orang Koya Pemancha Dana Bayong of the paid tributary. While Chief Nyanga and his followers living in his longhouse at Lemas in the Undup River, they were attacked and defeated by Indralila and his forces from the Skrang. Due to this defeat, Nyanga and his people fled away to settle at Do, in Indonesian Borneo. About 1834, the Skrang led by Orang Koya Rabong made a raid on Banting Hill, which was inhabited by Baladaics and Malays, who suffered heavy losses. Before the fight, one Bala shaman medicine man by the name of Manang Langong announced loudly that Indralila was the instigator for the quarrel between them as follows. "Why are we fighting? We have no quarrel with each other. It is all the fault of Indralila, who has been playing a double game," shouted Langong. When Indralila heard this, he jumped into the Linga River to escape being beheaded by the Daiks. According to a story, he turned into a crocodile, which for years afterwards caught unwary people swimming and bathing in the region. However, despite this, the battle continued and the Banting Malays and Baladaics were badly defeated. It was during this attack that Chulu Tarang, a leading warrior of Lingja Molilbu, made his praise name Ensumbar Tarang. 3 years later, in 1837, Orang Koya Pemancha Dana made war on the Underpibans, who had killed his brother Ankam and utterly defeated them, taking many captives and looting a famous Gucci jar that was thought to have magical properties. This war was famously called Bolabese Great Force because all people from Skrang and Ceribus joined the war on Gaelas Extinct War, because the Great Force attacked not only one longhouse but all longhouses in the Undup to finish them off. The surviving Undup Ibans took refuge in the Kapuas Valley and Linga and later settled in the area of Salemba. Only under the rule of Brooke did they return to Banting Hill, which had meanwhile been settled by the Skrang. In retaliation, the Spuasi Daiks under Orang Koya Temingong Juga Anak Jelambong of Lundu attacked Paku on the Ceribus at about the time. He attacked Ada's longhouse at Mitup, but most inhabitants had fled earlier. Ka 1838, the Bulasi Dakes raided the Ceribers and Kolakakrian, which is a place east of the Ceribers, under the leadership of Ijalang and his son-in-law Orangkoya, chanting to avenge their previous losses at Banting and revenge for their disturbed peace and harmonious lives. However, Ijalang was defeated by Amalbulan at the Plasan stream in Ceribers, while Janting defeated the large longhouse of Orangkoya Temengong Tandak at the Melupa stream in Kolaka. Early in 1839, in revenge for the defeat of his father-in-law Ijalang, Janting and all his bravest warriors of Banting set out to fight the Ceribers. They had decided to attack both the Paku and Rimbas tributaries in the Ceribers. The combined Rimbas and Paku defenders agreed to fight the attackers in the Rimbas tributary at Nanga Ande stream on the night of the next full moon. However, the Rimbas force came earlier than the Paku force but later than the Bola force, who attacked them and capsized their smaller boats straight away. Many of the Rimbas Ibans were killed, including the sons of Orangkoya Anta and Gun, who had come with the war party. The battles mentioned above were all between various groups of Ibans who lived at the mouths of different rivers. This intermittent struggle continued after 1839. It was because of these that the newly arrived James Brooke found that he could easily get the support of the Spuya, Undup and Buladakes in his warfare against the Ceribers and Scrang, and later on against the Kanut and Ulrajang. The quarrel and war between the upper and downriver of Batang resulted in a migration back to Batang Kenya, from which the Iban crossed over to the upper Batang Katabas and proceeded to the upper Batang Bale, a branch of the Batang Rajang. Moving on to the next segment, we have rule by Brooke. The Iban fell under the rule of Raja James Brooke in 1841. Notably, Brooke was not colonizing or ruling on behalf of the British Empire. He ruled Sarawak as an absolute monarch, unconnected to any imperial power. After defeating the rebellion led by Datu Patinggi Oli in Kuching, then Sarawak proper, James Brooke was appointed the Raja of Sarawak. His second biggest battle was against the Iban of Ceribers and Scrang region, led by Lengi Molilbu at the Battle of Beting Mar. After this, James Brooke tried to sign the Ceribers peace treaty with Orangkoya Pemincha Dana Bayong. Charles Brooke, the second Raja, was committed to ending purported headhunting and piracy on the part of the Iban, and made numerous attempts to quell such activities with military force, which is mostly made of local inhabitants who were exempted from paying local door taxes and could take any heads and other valuable items like jars and brassware. This often led to organized resistance by the Iban. In one instance, the Iban leader Liba Rentap resisted Brooke from his fortress on Mount Sodok and only defeated after 3 successive punitive expeditions. The Ibans of Linga, the Undup Ibans and the Spuya fought for Brooke. After Balang Balay Nubung was executed by the Brooke government, his brother Injip led a rebellion in the Katabas region, which was quelled after 3 punitive expeditions. Anton Ijalalayam was another rebel leader, along with Pengalun Gambang Berth Langit in the upper Batang I. Lintongmu Ori of Kanut, Kanab Ain Kori and Tulang Jindang also once rebelled against the Brooke government. Thereafter, the Iban became vital allies of the Brooke dynasty, with the defeat of both Rentap and later the last rebel leader Urson. Vina Brooke was the third Raja of Sarawak. He had to quell rebellions by Taba, Pengalu Meram Anderson of Entabay. He ceded Sarawak to the British government after the Second World War, after winning a majority vote in the Sarawak State Assembly and local resistance of the secession idea. However, Sir Edward Udall, who was the British governor in Sarawak, gave independence to Sarawak on 22 July 1963. Soon Sarawak formed the Federation of Malaysia with Sabah, Malaya and Singapore, which ceded later. Warfare between Dayak peoples continued to be an intermittent problem for the regime until the Great Peacemaking in Kapit in 1924, when the Raja Vine also consolidated the support of the Iban by appointing one of their Great War heroes, Ko Anak Jubang, to the position of Temengong or Paramount Chief. Ko became a member of the Advisory Council of the State, the Council Negri, and converted to Christianity in 1949. He was awarded the Queen's Medal for Chiefs and the Order of the British Empire. Let's zoom in on World War II and understand its implications. During the Japanese occupation of Sarawak from 1942-5, the Iban also played a role in guerrilla warfare against the occupying forces, particularly in the Kapit division where hunting was temporarily revived towards the end of the war. At this time, Sarawak came under the temporary military administration of the Australian forces, who were particularly prominent in the liberation of Borneo. Sarawak got its own independence from the British on 22 July 1963, while Sabah got its independence on 31 August 1963. On 16 September 1963, the Federation of Malaysia was formed between the Federation of Malaya at that time, Sabah, North Borneo, Sarawak and Singapore. The Kobold Commission, which surveyed Sarawakians about the formation of Malaysia, reported a third favours its formation while another third was against it, and the remaining third did not form any opinion. Brunei refused to join the formation of Malaysia and got its independence in 1984 from the British. Singapore ceded from Malaysia in 1969 to be independent until today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your support and I'll see you in the next video.